Okay, welcome back to our Simple Healthy Life podcast, where again, our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics we find interesting. And as always, with people that we find interesting. And we have one of those people right here. His name is Jay Soares. I got to meet Jay a couple months ago when he put together a program for veterans to do a bunch of different modalities that he felt might enhance their lives. And he was working with a company called Heroes in Transition out of the Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And what struck me so quickly with Jay is his passion for helping people and connecting with people and connecting people with people. You could really tell that in short order, even though he's a very soft-spoken guy, when he does choose to talk, it's in a way that helps you understand his goals are really to help you and to be helpful. And as I started to get to know him a little bit more, I really started to become intrigued by your story. I wanted to figure out more about you. And as you started to tell me more about you, I thought to myself, why can't we use our platform to help spread and amplify his message? Because it's such a great one. So Jay, we don't really do a ton of prep here because we want to make sure it's authentic. So I won't start with the question, tell us about yourself. I'll give you a specific point to start with that I'm interested in.
All right.
So why don't you tell me and Ryan and the world a little bit about how you got into the military?
All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for having me on today. My journey into the military, it was interesting. I come from a military family, and it's always been in the back of my mind that I want to carry on the tradition of, especially in the Army. But more than anything, I was messing up, and I knew if I didn't get away from this area, get away from Taunton, I was not going to do anything good in my life. So 17 years old, I went to the recruiter station and went to go sign up. And after I already dropped out of school, and my mom told me, just drop out of school, get a real job. So I went down to the recruiting station, got the paperwork to sign up, brought it back to my mom, and she told me, I'm not signing anything because I'm not going to be the one to sign your life away. So I had to wait till I was 18 to join. But honestly, it was the best thing I ever did. And before I left, I asked my girlfriend at the time, who was still my wife, if she would marry me. And we've been happily married going on September 1st will be 19 years.
Wow.
And the military, it wasn't an easy road, but it was the right one for sure.
Wow. So you join the military, you leave your girlfriend, you leave your family, you leave Taunton, and what do you do? Where did you go?
I started off in basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma for 9 weeks. Scariest 9 weeks of my life. Right smack dab in Tornado Alley. And it was crazy. I seen tornadoes, 9 tornadoes in 9 weeks. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm never going back to Oklahoma as long as I live. Finished up there, went on to advanced individual training in Fort Eustis, Virginia, where I became a transportation management coordinator. And then I thought from there I was going to finish training and, everything was going to be great, go back, get married and be able to live with my wife on a base. And I got orders to South Korea. So that was interesting. 18 years old, I got sent to South Korea, and they told me, you cannot take your wife with you. So we just got married right after training, went home, got married. Everything was great. But then I had to leave again by myself.
So had you ever traveled before this?
Not much and not alone, and never out of the country. So that was a whole new experience for me. And not much guidance. It was kind of I literally took my entire life in 4 bags and, dragged it through the airport, train station, onto buses, and, till I got to my barracks in Daegu, South Korea.
Wow. So they were like, you show up here.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, this is where you got to be this time, be there, or you're AWOL. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you there?
I did 1 year in South Korea. Yeah.
Did you get any breaks, or that was just straight up?
So you can go home on vacation, but instead I actually flew my wife to South Korea to come experience it. And she got to fly out there twice, stayed extended stays. You know, it was like 18 days one time, 21 days another time. And it was amazing. And honestly, we still talk about it. That's a core memory that we have, like, unbelievable.
Sick. So what did you do after that?
So leaving South Korea, I went to Fort Irwin, California. The wife and I packed up her little Oldsmobile Alero and drove from Taunton, Massachusetts, all the way to California. And I remember like it was yesterday, you know, Fort Irwin is not for the faint of heart. Like, you get to Barstow, California, which is like barren. It's nothing there. And then you go 40 miles into the middle of the desert, and that's where Fort Irwin, California is. And I just remember looking over at my wife and just watching her sobbing. Like, and I was like, listen, like, this is our new life. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, we're supposed to be happy. She's like, I don't know if I can do this, you know, and it was a struggle. She ended up flying home shortly thereafter. I was like, you know, go home for your birthday. Go, you know, you're homesick, you know, and then shortly thereafter she came back and we found out she was pregnant with our first child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long were you in the military for?
I did just under 8 years active duty.
Were you there in California the whole time?
No, I bounced around a lot. California wasn't the place to be. So I was like, you know, I'm going to re-enlist. I was coming up to the end of my first enlistment, and I decided, you know what, this is the easy way out of California. Let me re-enlist, get back to the East Coast, and ended up back at Fort Eustis, Virginia. And, you know, I thought, you know, we'll be closer to family, be closer to home. But as soon as we got here, they were like, hey, get ready. We're deploying. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting.
So then you deployed. Where'd you go?
Went over to Iraq in support of Operation New Dawn as a transporter. So we were just pulling out tanks out of Iraq, you know, shipping them over the border to Kuwait. Mm-hmm. And luckily, we went over there as an entire battalion, and we came back, not one person lost.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
So 8 years. So you're 18, you're 26 now.
At
the end of your military.
At the end of the military, yeah. At
Okay.
the end of my tour. I mean, at the end of my enlistments, yes.
Awesome. So how'd it go? So you decide you're going to be done with the military, or how'd that go?
Yeah, so leaving Iraq, I was like, you know what? Like, I was coming up to my ETS date again to get out. I was like, you know what? I don't want to leave without like a profession that I want to follow under my belt. So I ended up reclassing to engineer. And I figured, all right, I'll sign up for another 2 years on top of my contract, and I'll go to school, become an engineer. I thought I had dwell time. Dwell times when you come back, they say 1 year away, you get 2 years home. Didn't read the fine print, right? So in the fine print, it states once you reclass, you waive your dwell time. So I go to Missouri, finish becoming an engineer, a heavy equipment operator, and then I get down to Fort Stewart, Georgia, which they call the Marne Express, because you don't stay there for long. You get shipped right over. I show up, I in process, get my housing, get my family situated, and they said, hey, whatever you do, don't unpack your stuff. You're leaving. I was like, I got dwell time. I don't know what you guys are talking about. They're like, yeah, no, you waive that. Like, you're going. Afghanistan, your unit's leaving next week. You'll be following them in a month.
So how old's your kid at this point?
So my child was just under 4 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, that was the hardest thing for me, is just, you know, being away, you know, and by the time my child was 4, I already missed half of their life. So yeah, that was rough. And that was my deciding factor. I was like, you know, I can't do this anymore, you know, because I'm not connecting with my family, because I didn't want that connection anymore. I didn't want to connect and then leave again, you know. So that was my final straw, like getting to Fort Stewart, and then them just telling me, hey, surprise, you're leaving. Like, I remember walking into my house with my orders in my hands and just breaking down to my wife and saying, hey, I gotta leave. I'm sorry. Like, if you don't want to be with me anymore, I understand. Like,
wow.
Yeah. And that was one of the hardest moments of my life.
Yeah.
those aren't choices that most of us have to go through at that age.
Right. Still so young and not even late 20s and having to deal with that. Like, yeah, that's a huge burden.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Did you end up going over?
Yeah, I did. And Afghanistan was great. It was an experience. And luckily I made some great connections over there. At first, it wasn't so great. Showing up there, being the new guy, and yeah, I didn't mend well with the rest of the unit. And then one of my leaders who ended up showing up a month after me, I'll give him a shout out, Sergeant First Class Mitchell. He was my gym buddy. They were like, hey, when he gets here, you guys are gonna be killing the gym. He's a gym rat, and bro, the biggest, baddest dude I've ever met in my life. Like, he was bench pressing 515 pounds natural, and like just unbelievable. Like he's the reason why I got so strong. Like it was just,
wow.
But yeah, he was like a savior to me being over there.
I mean, I don't have much to compare it to, but I got to figure, like, you go through that experience where you literally have that conversation with your wife and your family, and then I got to figure you especially at that age, you probably bring some of that with you. Like, when you get over there, like, I don't want to be here. I shouldn't be here. This isn't my path. This isn't right. And then it's tough to mesh with people over there. So maybe they're thinking the same thing, maybe they're not. But ultimately, like, you're not out there to make friends when you first get there. You're out there to get home.
Right. And I mean, you think you're there with your brothers and your sisters that are there to have your back. And like, I literally had people like trying to fight me, and we're all walking around with loaded ARs, with M4s, and I'm like, yo, I'm not comfortable here. You know what I mean? I was like, this is not what I signed up for, Yeah, that was tough.
I bet.
Then he came in, and it was kind of like strong connection. So then
For sure.
Easier,
That was my platoon sergeant, and like, that right there just kind of solidified, hey, I got somebody. You know what I mean? He's got my back. Like, I know if anybody's got my back, he's got my back for sure.
Probably taught you quite a lesson on leadership.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's a lot of things that you take away from leaders in the military, and a lot of what I took away was how not to be a leader, and then how to be a better leader than those who were leading me. But he is one person that I was emulating, that I would want to be like, all through my career.
You still in touch?
Yes. Actually, we just recently got back in touch, and yeah, it was one of those things. Like, I was thinking about him a lot, and then next thing you know, he called me, and it was like within the last year, and I'm so grateful he did. Yeah.
Crazy how often that happens. You think about someone like you haven't talked to in forever, and then they're like, I had a dream about you, and they call you, they reach out. Crazy.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Yeah, explain that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Explain that.
No kidding. I actually had a funny one. I was telling a story about my high school goalie because they won the state title, and I was just remember that, like, I knew the kid well, not really well, but I knew, and I was like, this kid Dan Custins, man, he was a beast. Like, he was a sophomore on the state title team and like all this stuff. And then, like, I got a friend request from him. I'm like, I mean, I know Facebook does some stuff, but like, they didn't send me his profile to like go click on. They must have done it the opposite or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's out there, like. And I know I said his name out loud, but ultimately, like, yeah, weird, right? Yeah. Really, really strange. But good. I guess keep the people you want to keep in touch, keep them in your head, keep. So talk to us a little bit about when you finished the military, you transitioned, and then.
Yeah, getting out of the military, I thought, this is one of the happiest days of my life. Like, let me get out of here, get my life started, get back to my extended family. And, yeah, you think that's when, everything's over, but that's like when the battle just began. It was scary. It was, not anything what you expected to be. You think, people are going to be like holding your hand, walking you through the VA, but really all the benefits are out there, but it takes you to get up and go after them and get what you deserve, because nobody's going to come knocking at your door. Nobody's going to be asking you, hey, do you want this? Do you want these benefits?
Really?
So
They
you
don't give
really
like a
have to
package or
grind.
anything to say like do these things, nothing like that.
So they do have like a program like before you get out, and I want to say it was called like ACAP, and you know, they love their synonyms and the acronyms in the military, but basically it like prepares you to get out, but nothing really prepares you because like you don't realize like now you're on your own. Like even the ACAP program, like you're told you have to be here at this time, you know, the structure, you know, and but once you're out, nobody's there to tell you, hey, you have to go here, you have to do this, you have to go check in with this person. So now you're on your own, you know, and it the benefits are there, but you really have to grind. You have to put your head down, keep moving forward, just, you know, go after them. Took me 8 years to get everything squared away with my benefits, and
Really?
luckily, you know, they everything panned out, and but it was tough, you know.
Incredible. You'd think it'd be like, oh, show up to this place and then all right, you know, check a couple boxes and you're good to go. But
Right.
yeah,
Well, interestingly enough, like, I mean, I think about it like you know that this is the style of people that you've just been basically told what to do your entire career.
Mhm.
Like you said, show up, do this, show up, do this, show up, do this, and then you're transitioning to essentially a non-military organization that has military ties. You'd think they'd be like, we hardly got to walk these guys through some of this, but no, it doesn't work like that, huh?
No, not at all. Definitely not.
so what was the hardest adjustment then? Because that's like, yeah, like a manifestation of one of the hard adjustments, like the lack of structure. But we were talking just briefly before the, you know, the reacclimation to civilian society, I suppose, is always one that gets brought up. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was tough. Well, initially, like I started working for a construction company. I won't name them, but they weren't very. Uh, they didn't really understand like my knowledge and like my experience with, you know, I knew how to run equipment, but I didn't know like, you know, the fine tuning stuff and like actually like digging foundations and, you know, how I didn't understand everything.
Mhm.
But the way they try to communicate with me, and I was just like, listen, I just left the military. You're not gonna get in my face, come yelling at me. And like we're from Massachusetts. We're, you know, the Roughnecks over here, they're not polite, you know, to say the least. And I was just like, straight up, dude, cussing me out right in my face. And I was like, I left the military for that reason. I'm not going back to that. I'm out of here. See you later. Literally walked right off the site. And in that moment, he was like, you know what? You're not cut out for this anyway. And I took that. I was like, ooh, that was the last little dig you had to stick in there, huh? It's like, all right. So I went back to the Heavy Construction Academy using my VA benefits, you know, to get a little more knowledge, you know, and that actually helped me land a job with G Lopes, which was a great company, you know. But then, like, working with some of the people there, like, they just don't have the same heart and the same passion, like, and like safety stuff, like not to say they weren't safe because they actually did a great job with safety, but just the lack of care, you know, like for us in the military it's life or death, you know. So it's like, hey, if you're not paying attention, if you're not doing the things you need to do, this could kill somebody. But nobody has that mentality in the civilian world, you know. Then I ended up going over to waste management for a few years. I was a dozer operator at the Taunton landfill. That was fun while it lasted, but my back was all jacked up from Iraq and running heavy equipment, and ended up getting back surgery, and that like changed my life. Like I wasn't in the gym. I wasn't training anymore. You know, my mental was depleted. And after back surgery, my doctor said, "Hey, you can go, you know, back to lifting. You can." And I was like, "All right, let's do this."
What was
you
the
know?
surgery?
It was a discectomy, my L4, L5, but it was to the point where like I couldn't walk anymore. And like my wife tells me like that was the hardest thing she's ever had to deal with, is watching me laid out on the floor for a week. And I went to the VA and I pretty much told them like, if I don't get surgery, Like, if you guys don't sign me up with a official date to get surgery, I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm gonna end up taking my own life. Yeah,
Wow.
that was tough.
I can imagine. Yeah, talk to us more about that. Like, yeah, that mental. I mean, even that, like, the job stuff kind of outlines like, there is no hierarchy either, right? You come out of this, you've just spent 8 years of your life climbing a hierarchy, like earning some respect. Even though I don't really know what the reclass and all that does, but I mean, there's like, it makes sense, right? But then this like random Joe Schmo comes up to you and starts yelling at you like he's like the best thing,
Right.
Like he's earned some semblance of respect from you or whatever. Um, it must be hard, yeah. Kind of coming into that, you spent so many time, so many years building yourself up, earning respect, and civilian world is not really like that.
Yeah, and I went from being a leader, being a sergeant in the U.S. Army, thinking, I'm doing all these great things, to being, being like a private again, being the new guy, and yeah, it didn't really land well with me.
So we've heard this before. We interviewed a guy named Mike Nash, and the line that stuck with me, I think I was even telling Ryan recently, like, you do all the things, you spend your career, your life. You probably had a nickname, right? People are working together as a team, life and death situation, and then that chapter closes, and now you're just Jay. And like, I feel like a lot of people really struggle with that. And from what I'm hearing from you, like, even just like the words that you've chose to use, even from the very beginning, like, you're a very purposeful guy. And it seems like purpose is something that drives you. And even though that purpose changes, right? Like, you wanted to carry on the lineage, right? Then obviously you wanted to make sure you did right by your girlfriend at the time, not just do right by her. You want to make sure that she's your wife, and then you want to do right by your kid, and then you want to do right by the military, and then you want to do right by the people that you're around. And I met you, and I felt the same way. So like, talk to me a little bit about this concept of purpose, and like, how did that drive you? How do you help people find it now? I know that's one of the things that you're passionate about, is helping people like go through the VA and find their purpose and find their why. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. It took me a little while to, figure out what's next for me, and luckily I fell into, going through Voc Rehab through the VA is basically a program allowing you to switch your career. And they pay you to go to school. So school's paid for. They also give you a housing stipend. So now it basically takes all the pressure of like surviving, working, and everything. Now you get to relax, go back to school, and restart your career, right? So I chose media and film production, and now I like to do stuff like this, bring out people's stories, and I also like to just share my story and try to inspire others and to know like there's hope out there, and even though like we do find ourselves being lost at times, there's still avenues that you can still find yourself again, and yeah, it's been great. I had my own little podcast going for a little while. It was the Veteran Project, and we bring on different veterans to talk about their past, their and their transition out of the military, what they're doing now, and we always try to leave them off with something positive. And afterwards we always talk about like different organizations and different avenues that we've taken to find yourself again, and yeah, it's been great.
What a transition, heavy equipment to film.
Yeah.
Right? Nice, well-rounded.
Thank you.
And I love the stuff you're doing with the film, by the way. Obviously, I've told you that before, but nice work.
Thank you.
So, what is it? Project Mission Media?
Mission Media Marketing.
Yeah. Awesome. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. I mean, I've tried different routes. Initially, I started out with just drones, and I was just doing Soares aerial solutions. That's what it was, right? And then I was like, what is my mission though? Like, what is the mission behind all this, you know? And like I really like storytelling. I like bringing people's stories to life. And I think that's the overall mission, is to set up like some sort of organization, whether it'll be a nonprofit but to bring people in to tell their stories and recreate those stories into, whether it be a short film or a podcast like this, yeah, I mean, it's powerful stuff, and I think people need to see more of the good side of media and not, you know, the news and, you know, everything that's being spread across the world.
Yeah. So, all right. So then you had these really tough transitions. You had, you know, some downs, some highs, and then you recently kind of like found a greater purpose, say, too. You talk to us about this, like, you know, entry to faith, like kind of like what you did, like a camp kind of thing.
Yeah, so I got a call from a brother of mine which is like I got the chills just thinking about it now. My wife went to school with his person at the time, and she talked to him. She was actually doing the flowers for his wedding. And she goes, "Hey, if you see my husband at the gym, talk to him. Like, you guys can connect. You know, you guys are both military." And Wade, he's an amazing guy. He goes out of his way to, you know, help others in so many ways. And so we started talking at the gym. We were at Workout World together, and he was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, I was in Afghanistan in 2013. I was like, "No way." I was like, "I was there in 2013. I was like, "I was on a little cop, though, called Shoja." He's like, "Get out of here. I was on Shoja." I was like, "Yeah, but I was shutting it down." I was like, "You know, we were like the last ones there, the last convoy out of there." He goes, "Dude, I was the last convoy out of there."
What?
I was like, "Dude, this is way, way too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence." Like, we were brought together for a purpose, you know? And he started talking to me about Project Refit, who they put on retreats to help veterans and first responders. And he's like, "Hey, I'd love to get you out to Project Refit to go film the retreat." And I was like, "I'd love to. Let's talk more." So ended up, you know, come to an agreement, get down there to go film, and it was great. It was amazing. And while I was down there, they were like, "Hey, while you're here, you're a combat vet. We know you've been through some things. Like, make sure you take something away with this, right? Like, we want you to participate. We want you to be a part of this." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, and by no means did I think I was going down there to change my life. And it absolutely changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, just hearing these guys open up about things that they were going through, and it kind of sparked my mind. Like, man, what am I doing? Like, am I checking these boxes? Am I lifting up my wife? Am I bringing honor to my marriage and my family? And I wasn't. And at the time, I was like, man, you know, I have so many people looking up to me. What am I doing? And that struck me to my core. And then I started to realize, like, you know, I need like a greater purpose, you know, and they were, you know, it wasn't a religious-based retreat, but they started talking about God and the Bible, and I was like, you know what? Like, at one point in my life, it was mostly during the hard points of my life, you know, on deployment, I would open the Bible, and like, because I didn't think I was going to come home. I didn't think I was going to make it, you know, but I was like, something's calling me, you know, and I got home from there. I sat my wife down. I was like, "Hey, this is like, I'm here for change now," you know. And even during that retreat, they asked me, they said, "Hey, we do ask if you refrain from alcohol and marijuana." And I was like, you know, it's going to be hard. You know, I've been smoking every day for years, you know.
Through that transition, like through all that, like transition back to civilian life.
Yes.
Yeah. Were you drinking?
I was drinking at some points, but luckily it never really like took hold in my life. But it was a lot of like binge drinking and just acting a fool, you know. But the marijuana definitely started clouding my mind, my judgment, and not allowing me to be present, with myself, with my family anymore. And what I thought was helping me, it was just holding me back. Yeah.
So they kind of like introduced you. They kind of reintroduce like that faith back into you, and they said, "Well, check out the Bible, do all the things," and then you sat your wife down. What was the response? What would you say? Like, hey, what do you think about Christianity? What was that?
I actually, in front of my entire family, my wife and 2 kids, I said, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm doing with my life," and I was like, I welcome you to join me. I'm not going to force you to join me, but this is, I believe this will lead us to a greater life. And since then, been to church every Sunday, except this past Sunday. I accidentally signed up for work. But even so, my son, knowing that I wasn't going to be there this Sunday, he went over to my wife and he said, "Mom, are we still going to church? Like, are you going to take me to church? I really want to go." And, just like warmed my heart. And it just like reminded me that we're on the right path. Yeah.
So you guys have this in common then. You've been kind of exploring your religious identity. Is that a right word to say? Is that kind of exploring? I mean, Ryan and I have been friends for quite a while now, and I've watched him explore so many different aspects of his life, and I'm loving seeing him explore this one. So can you tell us a little bit about your current exploration?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like similar in some sense. I kind of just, I don't know. I read a couple compelling novels, and I've been trying to understand the significance of like the literary text behind Christianity, right? And there's a lot there. And it's interesting. You were kind of saying like, I didn't think I was coming back, and then then you turn to the Bible, and it's like, when push comes to shove, and like we're really faced with a hard question, a lot of times we're like, I don't really know what to do, but that feels like a decent place to start. I'm gonna like ask God, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, and I think a lot of my, I think there is spirituality. I do think there is religion. I do think they're like slightly different. Like we can be very spiritual and gain an understanding that there are things happening that we can't explain. We just talked about like, you think about someone and then they call you, right? Like that happens so frequently. There's no way that that's like just mere coincidence, right? There's things greater than coincidences. So you and I have been doing, talking a lot about spirituality in general. And so strengthening that, and then seeing that spirituality, like it kind of like describes a phenomenon, right? Like it kind of describes that like, okay, there's things happening beyond our capacity to understand. And there's like some engagement with it, but it doesn't actually solve the problems, right? Like the universe, it doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't give you any guide. It doesn't even articulate the like human condition very well. But then when you start reading the Bible, then you start thinking, oh, a lot of these things really do make sense. And I think if you approach it with an open mind, and take it for the context that it's in too. I mean, yes, it's translated however many times, and it happened, beyond 2,000 years ago at the very least, So you approach it with an open mind, and you start to see like there's some pretty like unexplainable truths behind this. So anyway, so I read a couple different reading about it for years and years and years, and then the last thing I did is I read the book Brothers Karamazov, and it's a book by Russian novelist Dostoevsky, and it's like a monster of a book. So I happened to be reading this monster of a book. It's like 800 pages, and the print is like font size, like 5, and like just blocks, right? No, nothing, no breaks. And I'm reading this during like a particularly like, difficult time of my life, and pushing through reading it. And nothing happens in this book. There's like 3 events in 800 pages, right? But what does happen is he outlines so beautifully what it means to be a good person, what it means to be a passionate person, and what it means to be an intellectual person. And I recognize that I am like, I had been so intellectual, like so analytical, right? And in this book, he kind of outlines that even if you're right, that doesn't mean you're good. And I was like, and it's not said like that, but it's just presented in such a beautiful fashion. And so, like, the most naive character, the young character, he makes a ton of mistakes, but he's the best. He's the best man. And I said, well, I kind of like that idea. So started reading the Bible a little bit more after that, and then I just sat down with my wife and thought, what do you think about Christianity? Just that question, and then we kind of discussed it, and we got baptized two Sundays ago. So
Awesome.
yeah, so we've been going to church and doing all the things, and it's been great. So I think it provides a good, it's like it orders our values a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can have all sorts of values. We can put care and concern into all the different values. All values are good, but Christianity does prioritize them. It says these are the important ones, right? And the important ones are, like love and kindness and all the cool things, but also like fair judgment and truth and honesty, perseverance, right? And voluntary self-sacrifice. Those are the things that I think we know are important, but we don't necessarily prioritize all the time. And so to have like a structure in which we do prioritize those has been really helpful. It's like, it's really nice. So you're fighting that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I've been working on is forgiving. And that's been like something hard for me. I'm one to kind of hold a grudge, and I'm realizing like I'm not hurting I'm hurting myself holding on to these grudges. And to be honest, like I shouldn't be judging them. I should just forgive and move on, carry on with my life.
A big theme is like we want forgiveness, but we don't ever give it easily. So we want easy forgiveness. We know all the wrongs we've done, but then we hold grudges, right? And that's like a big biblical theme as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
You've heard this quote, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. It's like,
true.
I had to go through a period of time where I needed to forgive, and I think most people can relate to the fact that as hard as it is to forgive, it's even harder to be the person that has to forgive themselves. And I'm better at forgiving others now. I'm still really struggling at forgiving me, and I know I made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of dumb stuff, so I think we can all understand that. But it's nice to see you guys both kind of on this parallel line, like exploring these things and coming to these conclusions on your own, and then hearing, what'd you say? There's too many coincidences for it to be coincidence, right? Like that we're sitting right here talking about two people that are exploring the same concepts. Both of them are very purposeful, purpose-driven people, and you both sounds like you actually sat down with your wife and was like, I need to talk to you about something. And it sounds like it's making all of your families better.
Yeah, it sounds like there's very little resistance from your family, which was great. Same on my end. It was kind of like, let's talk more. Let's like understand it, right? And I think that's like all you could hope for. It's like a little understanding. It's not necessarily always that way. There's a lot of connotations with. You mentioned like the religious identity, which I think is partly a problem, right? It's like I don't necessarily want that identity. What people like presume is one of a like Christian identity,
I think you're right, and I don't even have a right word for it,
Yeah.
But it for you, from the outside looking in, like it's an aspect of something that you're exploring.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing for you, right? You're exploring a lot of different aspects right now. I know you're back in school,
Yes.
right? You're for media,
Yep.
And you're constantly trying to grow. So you guys are both intentionally growing, and I think that's from someone that's kind of in a different phase of their life. That's the part of religion that I really respect and love, like the way that it can help you grow, as an individual, as a being, as a husband, as a father. So what are you doing now? So tell us a little bit about like maybe Project Refit, a little bit about like whatever you're doing like right now, because I know you're working with all sorts of different organizations, connecting people, bringing people together. I got the opportunity to meet some of your Heroes in Transition team. Amazing. So tell us about what you're doing now and what the world should know.
Yeah, so Heroes in Transition, my wife and I, we're facilitators. So we go out, we go out with the spouses groups, the family groups, but they also do veterans, spouses, family events. I forget how many programs they have. 30
15.
programs. 15.
I was just talking to them
so
about
15 programs they have, and I've done so much with them, and such an amazing organization. If you're a veteran, or a spouse, definitely get in contact with them. They do a lot of programs over the bridge on the Cape, but my mission is to get them doing more out this way, which we've done other things out this way too. But as of recent, the FIRM program, which is Fitness in Real Motion, which we had had you be a part of, which was amazing. That was the number one thing people brought up was the breath work and the cold plunge and the mindfulness. It was just, everybody was blown away by what you do.
Thank you.
And then also another organization that I'm a part of is the Combat Veteran Motorcycle Association. And we're just a group of combat vets that ride motorcycles.
Nice.
And our motto is Vets Helping Vets. And, we reach out to local veterans in need, different organizations. We donate towards, we actually have a motorcycle and car show and a poker run. It's all kind of jammed into one. That's coming up on August 8th in Raynham, and it's a great event. If you're into motorcycles or cars, come on out, or just to support your local vets, But yeah, other than that, just, trying to help out any organizations. Like, that's how I ended up getting in touch with Heroes in Transition in the first place. I started up with my drone stuff, and I reached out to them and said, hey, do you guys need any media help? I got a drone. I'd love to shoot some stuff for you. And they were like, well, you're a veteran. Like, come out and see what we're about. And I was blown away. My wife and I have been on, I want to say 6 marriage retreats through them. And every time we go, we just think like, what? Like, maybe we don't really need this year. Like, we're doing pretty good, and we leave there and we're just like, wow. Like, I can't believe how much we needed that. Like, and how much better we're going to be now that we've been through that, reconnecting and learning communication skills, just been mind blowing.
How do people find you? Like, we'll put your tag somewhere, right, on the bottom. We still do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Drone Guy J. That's and also my media is also Mission Media Marketing on Instagram. And if you're on TikTok, you can find me Goldwinger. That's Goldwing with the A, Goldwinger.
I almost asked if it was ER or not. Okay.
Yeah. You can just find me doing some reckless stuff on my Goldwing and having fun out there. But yeah, check it out.
Motorcycle or drone or what?
Yeah, motorcycle. Yeah. It's a big touring bike, but I don't treat it like a touring bike.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah, you've been through so much, man, and it's cool to like hear about your journey and your story. And yeah, it's clear that your intentions are good, right? And even like from the very first moment, you're kind of like, struggle. Like, my environment perhaps was not the best, like a little like rough and tough, right? And so then you said, I got to get out of here. This is the right step, And I think that's super admirable, because you could have been like, whatever. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. You ran into the first roadblock where your mom's like, I'm not signing that. You could have gave up there, but you didn't, and then you kind of persevered. A couple different changes, lots of hardship. What's a good message for people who are struggling, whether they're veterans, they're down, they're real down, they're struggling with the transition, or just like the average person struggling? What's an important lesson that you've taken away from your story?
Just never lose hope. You know, don't let your environment become who you are. You know, you are not, you know, what surrounds you, but who you are, like, you get to choose that. And as long as you strive to make that change every day, you know, better yourself in some kind of way, and never lose that hope, and you'll become that.
We're always becoming.
Always. A never-ending journey. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate all you guys listening out there. Please make sure you like, share, get in touch. You know, we got resources and people that want to talk and help, and we're going to continue to bring them on, amplify their message, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.